Today we got Kendall Eugene on the podcast. He's a country artist with Texas roots, and in his conversation, we get into how he got started, how real life has shaped the songs he writes, and what it looks like trying to build a music career while carrying everything else in life, too. Kendall, how's it going, man?
It's going good, Dane. I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, thanks. All right. So for people just finding you, like, how do you introduce yourself to people?
So I guess I would just introduce myself like I would normally at a show. Hey, my name's Kendall Eugene. I'm originally from Texas. That's where I got my start in music, but I currently live in Manhattan, Kansas. And every day of my life, I miss living in Texas. So that's pretty. That's usually the way I introduce myself at a show. So
Right on. So
yeah.
so with your music, what kind of sound would you say you make?
It's fun to try to describe this because I'm technically a country musician, but I would say I kind of lean into the lanes of Southern rock and blues a lot more than what I normally would with some like more traditional honky tonk country. I like more of the Texas country stuff. And growing up, Texas country was coming up kind of on the rise, and it's more steeped in the blues and rock. And so my voice kind of lends itself to that and the style of play. When I write music, that's the way that I like to write is I want it to be raw. I want it to be heavy. Even if it's an acoustic, I want it to hit and punch a little harder than just, some sort of a ballad or something. So I guess that's Southern rock, blues, country adjacent, I guess you could say.
Right on. Do a lot of people like agree with that? Do people come up to you and say, wow, I figured you'd be more of a rock or more of a, like a blues guy when you play like in country bars and stuff?
Yeah. Actually, I've gotten that a lot. Actually, the funny thing is, the reason why I do the style that I do is my dad. He would always tell me, like, Kendall, your voice is perfect for like blues, southern rock, and then slightly country. And I always try to push against him, like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do the rock lane or whatever. I don't really care about the country stuff. I don't really care about the blues stuff. And the older I got, I realized my life situations just kind of lent themselves to needing to write that type of a song. And so it just kind of came out naturally for me. But yeah, when we go to shows or when I play shows in my band, I think people are a little bit surprised at kind of the genre we put forth, because even when we play country covers, we kind of ride that line between rock and country music. And so it's something fresh, I think, even if someone's heard the song 1,000 times, or it's even an old 90s country song, like, it's something that we push a little heavier. So
Hmm. So how did it all get started? When did you start playing music?
yeah, so I've played the drums for pretty much my entire life. So when I was 6 years old, my dad was a worship leader at a church. We had Sunday night services. His drummer didn't show up one day during practice, and he was like, "Hey, Kendall, you got some rhythm. Like, just go back there during practice and mess around on the drums, see what you got." And sure enough, I had enough rhythm to at least keep time, and I had no clue what I was doing, but I was a kid with sticks and hitting on stuff. So I had a blast. And when my dad noticed that, hey, you actually have something, he put me in drum lessons for about a month. And that is really what started. I've been playing drums in the church basically since I was about 7 or 8. And that's what really started it. I didn't start playing guitar or even trying to write music until I was like 18, 19. And even then, playing guitar was not really actually playing guitar. I was strumming G and C and E minor, which was about it. But that's how I got my start. I grew up in a musical family. My mom had a vocal scholarship to a college in Texas. My dad played the trombone and was supposed to play at Baylor, got in a wreck and ended up not being able to do that. But I came from a very musical family. And so I just grew up always. My dad's teaching himself to play a new instrument, like, just learning songs on a piano by ear. And so that really trained me at a young age to try to imitate what I was hearing on albums or on the radio, and then try to figure out, okay, how do I do that? And So yeah, I didn't start singing probably until I was like 12, 13. And I would just sing with my dad and my mom at church. And that's really kind of where it all started. And my love for music started there. So
At what point then were you like, I want to be in a band and go out and play my own music?
yeah, I mean, it took some time, man. So when I was in my early 20s, I was a drummer in a rock band. And like I thought that, I was 20, 21, just out of college, was like, oh, this is going to be life. I'm going to play drums for this rock band for the rest of my life. And I didn't realize the lead singer, he was about 8 years older than me. And he had kind of already done it before and was just kind of doing this as a hobby. And he would always tell me, he's like, it's not as easy as you think it is. Just because we're good, just because people like us, just because we can play shows in our local town, does not mean anything. Like, you have to be in it for the long haul. And we played for a couple years and I enjoyed it, but I got a career and started working, and that kind of just went by the wayside. I led worship and was a worship pastor in churches for about 15 years, on and off. And so I was kind of doing music through that. I didn't really start writing to where I wanted to share those songs with other people until I was, almost in my 30s. I played in a band with my brother. We were like a kind of a post-hardcore band, I guess you could say. And I fronted that. He played drums for me. But even that was just kind of a hobby. It was nothing that I was like, oh yeah, this is going to go big. It's going to be crazy. We're the next big thing. I never thought that. Right. And all that time, those 15 years or so, I had been writing music for the church or just writing music for me by myself, not really sharing it with anybody, but, my family, not really doing much with it. And in 2023, I got divorced, lost my job, lost my house, my kids, my dog. I always tell people if I had a tractor, I'd have lost that too. And so that kind of is what got me into doing country music. And I had nothing. And so I was just like, what am I going to do? I'm 35 years old. I don't have anything. Like, what am I going to do now? And in my boredom and depression, I would say, I started just playing country covers, mainly like Zach Bryan, Chris Stapleton, because I like the red dirt folky kind of style of Zach Bryan, and then Chris Stapleton is what got me into country blues, kind of music. And so I would just sit down and learn their songs. I had nothing else to do all day, and posted Zach Bryan's "Something in the Orange" on Instagram. I had a total of 62 followers at the time. And a producer from The Voice, like a talent scout producer from The Voice, saw it and DM'd me on Instagram. I didn't see it for like 2 months. And then even when I saw it, I was like, this is probably a scam. So I ignored it. And they messaged me back literally Christmas Day and were like, hey, all the auditions are closing. If you want to do this, this is legit. I'll send you the credentials, but you have to give me an answer today. And so checked them out and I was like, sure, I'll do it. And was able to get on the show, blessed enough to be on the show and then get a spot on a team. And that was really what started my whole push into, okay, I have something that I can do outside of even the church, and it's recognized, it's respected. I can connect with people. The music that I'm writing, it might not be awesome yet, but at least the lyrics and the stories are connecting with where people are at. And that is really what pushed me to be like, okay, I have to do something with this. I can't just sit on it. I've got to actually hone in this craft. It's been a part of me for my whole life. I've kind of just taken it for granted, honestly. And now it's time to really start putting the pedal to the metal and see what happens. And so that was about 2 years ago, and we're here now. So
after all of that, and you started playing music, like what was the first, like the early days of you being an independent artist on your own?
Well, it was kind of crazy. I lived in a very small town in Pennsylvania, and so the music scene was not big at all, like not even close. We basically had 2 breweries that held open mics and shows and stuff like that you could go to. And so I got a band together of a couple friends that I knew, just a bass player and a drummer. And I was like, hey, I think that we should just go for this open mic, play 4 songs, see what happens. We originally were going to do like 2000s, like divorced dad rock covers, pretty much, because we were like, well, we can at least pull those off. Those are pretty easy. And then my bass player, who I was living with at the time, he's like, Kendall, you got to do country music. And I was like, you're like the third person that's told me. So I guess that's what we're going to do. So we did some Zach Bryan and Chris Stapleton stuff that first day. Played 4 songs at this open mic where nobody else brought a full band, so we really stood out. And what happened was, from that 4-song set, we booked 3 shows from that 4-song set at this brewery, like for the next few months. And so that was like the first paid gig I'd ever done, was that spring. And all in that meantime was whenever I was talking with The Voice and trying to get on that and kind of hiding it from everybody else. Like I couldn't tell anybody that that's what I was doing. And so all the while, like I'm trying to push, I'm reaching out. We lived near Pittsburgh. I'm trying to reach out to venues in Pittsburgh, trying to reach out to artists that I had heard about, in that area, and try to get contacts and like, hey, where can I play? We played a couple times in Ohio at just random bars, where we're not making any money. We, once you do the gas and staying overnight and all that. And so it was really like, it's funny because nowadays when people get started in music, typically what ends up happening is they just put things all over social media, and then someone finds them on social media, and then they, get gigs, or they get they get a manager, someone discovers them. You know what I mean? But because of my experience in my early 20s playing with the band, having to hit the pavement before social media and be like, we just got to go out to venues and bars and find places and get in front of as many people as we can so that they can tell someone that, hey, you got to hire these guys, whatever. That's the approach that I took. And it worked for us. We were, booked pretty frequently for a town that did not have really any big music scene at all. And got the pleasure to play the Hard Rock in Pittsburgh, kind of on a whim, again, just by word of mouth. And after the show, I ended up getting remarried and moved to Kansas. And I did the same thing when I moved here to Kansas is, okay, where are the bars? Where are the honky tonks? Where are the places that I can go play at? I'm going to reach out on Facebook and find some musicians, and we're just going to pound the pavement and get in front of as many people as we can. And now fast forward 2 years later, and I'm pretty much completely booked for the summer. I'm playing in 4 different states in the next few months. Just got back from Nashville for the 3rd time, playing writers rounds out there. So yeah, it's been this like steady climb, much slower than what I would like. I wish that someone could just discover me on Instagram or TikTok and, boom, there it is. But that's not my path, and that's okay. And so I'm just going to keep hitting the pavement. And it's the way it started is a lot the way it is right now. It's just, there's a little bit more quantity happening currently.
What's your, now when you play, do you play your originals with your band, with your full band?
Yeah. So, excuse me, we have about, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 originals we'll play. Typically because we're playing, these bars and stuff, we're not a headliner yet. Sometimes we get headlining shows that we can play 90 minutes, and that's great, like at festivals. But right now we're playing 3 to 4 hour shows, which is fun but brutal. So we'll mix in, 2 or 3 originals to each one of our 45-minute sets. And so we're playing about, I would say the math on that's probably, we're playing 20 to 30% originals in a 3 to 4 hour set. And so like, I feel like that's pretty good. I don't really have a measure to go against on that, but I feel like, well, if we had to play an hour and a half, we'd only have to play 4 or 5 covers. So yeah, we're still working on stuff. Like I write new music pretty much every week, send it out to the guys and say, what do y'all think about this? Here's what I hear. And they're all better musicians than I am. So they're great to like bounce things off of. They all went to school for music. I did not. And so it's nice to bounce stuff off of them and say, hey, what do y'all think about trying this one out? And the great thing about the band that I have and the fact that we go and play a bunch of different places and we have a decent name around here is that we can try out a song. And if it sucks, we either go back to the drawing board or throw it out. No one responds to it. Okay, get rid of that one, But if it hits and it's like, okay, that one gets put in the set list, and then I get to send it to my production team and say, hey, this song hit really well live. let's see if we can, get to the studio with it.
So what's your goal then when you go to Nashville to do writers rounds?
Yeah, so my goal is really simple. My goal is simply to make connections with other writers, with people in the industry, and get in front of other people that would otherwise not be able to see me. Because, you know, like I said, I'm not your traditional country guy. I don't live in the town, and I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere when it comes to music and in general because I'm in Kansas. But I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere, and so it's really hard for me to make connections out here with with people who I could collaborate with or people who could teach me something. And so when I go to Nashville, I want to meet those types of people. I always stick around. I don't come into the writers round late, right before my show or right before my set, play the round and then leave. I stay for the entire time. I had one this last Thursday that was 6 to 11. I didn't play until 10 o'clock. I showed up at 6:15 because I wanted to be there for the entire thing, meet as many people. I don't think I left until midnight because I wanted to meet as many people as possible, talk to as many people as possible so that hey, this can maybe pay off one day. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to play in front of. You never know who you're going to talk to. And every time I've gone to Nashville, these last 3 times, I started with maybe one show or one round, and then it turned into two. And then those two turn into three. And then those three, hopefully turn into 4 or 5 the next time I go down. And so ultimately it's connections. It's getting to meet other people that are in the same space and saying, hey, what has worked for you? And honestly, it's a check for me of like, hey, I'm kind of in this echo chamber here in Kansas. The people that I play in front of, they already like us. And so what we play, they're going to like. But when I go out to Nashville and I play a song that I wrote, it's kind of one of those things of how am I going to get a response on this? Does this song get a response or not? Because if it doesn't in Nashville, then it might not be where it needs to be yet. But if it gets a response and it's like, okay, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right thing. I'm telling the right stories. I'm connecting with the song properly. And that's really the key for me.
Have you met anybody there that you've like built a pretty good relationship with?
Yeah, there's one guy that runs a writers round. His name is Vaden, and he runs one at the local in Nashville every month, once a month. And I've made a really good connection with him. And he's not a writer, but he knows everybody in town. He's a good guy to anytime I say, hey, I'm coming to Nashville, he's like, okay, well, let me find a place for you to go. I got this person that I know. I got this person that I know. Let me reach out to them. Let me see if they can connect with you. And so I've made really good connections on that end. I've also made good connections with other writers. The only issue is I work a day job. And so I work in remote sales and I have to work all day long. And like 9 to 5, like anybody else, right? But when someone asks, hey, next time you're in town, let's write together. I'm like, well, crap. You're probably going to want to write at 11 or 2 or 3. And I can't do that because I have to work. And so that's kind of been the barrier right now. I'm kind of just stacking up people that I can always reach out to and be like, hey, I'm in town. I have time off. Let's get something together. And so I've met enough of those people. And that's where like, kind of testing my songs out and testing my craft out is being proven so far. Cause I have people that come up to me and say, hey, next time you're in town, I really want to write with you. And that means a lot to me because when I do have the opportunity to do that, I'm going to step into that. And I'm going to continue those conversations. And there are people that I've talked to even since I've left this last time that I still am connected with. And it's not just yeah, we should totally get coffee sometime. And then nothing ever happens. You never talk, It's one of those things where, no, we're still having connection. We're still talking on social media. And that's been really helpful. So.
Do you give and get critique on your songs?
So I'm welcome to it. I don't necessarily give. I don't know that I'm in a place to give too much unless I know someone like really well. Like I have friends who aren't in Nashville that they'll bounce stuff off of me, but, I am open to critique always. And I don't necessarily go in asking for it, but if someone wanted to give it to me, I've had people come up to me after shows and be like, hey, maybe you should do X, Y, Z. But yeah, typically from other people that I meet outside of, my family and my band, it doesn't usually come, but I am so open to it. I'm someone who loves to be coached, loves to be taught, loves to understand, hey, does this connect? Does this not connect? And so my dad's a major part of that. Like I said, he's a a musician, has an incredible ear, knows music theory better than I will ever know it. And so he is the first person I ever send a song to. And he's always like, I didn't really get this song. Or this one doesn't make any sense. Or maybe you should try this chord progression here. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll try it. And I send it back to him. And he's like, okay, there it goes. Now it lands. And so I really, obviously, I value his opinion pretty highly. And so he's the number one critique in my life for music. And I respect it 100%. So.
Now, do you ever plan on only doing music?
That would be the goal. Yeah. So it's funny. My bosses with the sales company actually are based in Nashville, and so when I was out there this last time, I didn't have a round on Friday, and I was talking to them, and my main boss asked me like, "Hey, what is your goal?" He used to be a musician, was a drummer, still like does producing and all that, and so he was like, "Hey, what is your actual goal?" And I said, honestly, you probably don't want to hear this, but as soon as I can get out of this role and I can, supply for my family and provide for my family doing music, I'm going to do it as soon as that opportunity arises. I don't even care if it's a slight pay cut. Like if it supports my family and I have the opportunity to do it, I'm immediately jumping to that because that is ultimately the goal for me. And it doesn't mean that I've got to be selling out arenas or this or that. It just means that, hey, I've got to have a steady income from music because I know that I'm holding myself back a little bit because I have responsibilities. I'm a grown man with lots of kids. And so like I have responsibilities that I have to tend to. But in my pursuit of supporting my family, I know it holds me back from, I don't have time to always write. I don't have time to, flesh out ideas or do a ton of social media push or anything like that. It's like, I still have to work a normal job. So I'm not 20. If I was, 22, 23 years old, I'd have moved to Nashville already. I'd have, got a crappy apartment with some other writers or something, and it would be my whole life. But now I've got to write songs in between sales calls or at the end of the day when, I'm tired and I've had this idea running around in my head. Like, so yeah, the goal would 100% be just doing music. I know I can't support myself or my family on that currently.
Writing now, then you said like in between calls and stuff like what's your process of writing a song?
Yeah. So, it typically does not happen very quickly for me. Usually I'm chewing on an idea or just a line. I'm more of a hook writer. I like to write choruses first and then let the verses come later. And so what I'll do is I'll have this, it typically happens when I'm on a long drive or I'm running or I'm working out and just like my mind isn't on anything else other than what's right in front of me. And, I'll have, a phrase come to mind or I'll have a melody come to mind and I'll shoot it into my phone, voice memos. And then I'll sit down and, think about, okay, what is this particular hook or this line? Where is the story at? Like, where is the story coming from? And then I just start to write down a bunch of ideas for the story. And then I've got an idea of a story that I want to tell. And then I try to work that into more like rhyme and rhythm of, okay, like for instance, there's a song that I think I played it at the round that you were at. It's called Already Gone. And it's about basically, a couple that's been married for a long time and the spark's completely gone. They're kind of just roommates. They're just living, in the same house, but they're not really married. There's nothing actually there. And so the song's called Already Gone. And the way that song started was literally 2 years ago. It took me 2 years to write the song. It was, I just had the line in my head of we share a bed, but we don't share a heart. And we know that we're already gone. And I had that phrase in my head for 2 years. And it wasn't until, one of the trips to Nashville, I got serious about, okay, I need to write down in a journal every single song idea that I've had over the past couple of years. And so I just went and I wrote everyone down, whether it was a title name, a phrase, whether it was a concept. And then I picked out, okay, which ones are the ones that I know I can tell a story pretty quickly to. And so that was one of the first ones that I started writing on. I knew that I wanted it to be very bluesy, very sad. I knew I wanted it to be in a 6/8 format, time signature. And so I just got on my guitar and started playing very simple chords in a key that I know I can play. And I just started singing that melody, what I could play with a melody on. And that's where the song came from. And that's really where most of my songs come from. They don't usually take 2 years, but usually they come from an idea or a concept for a chorus. And then I sit down and I write the story in the verses.
So you say story, but how much of it is personal?
Um, I would say every song I write has some sort of personal tinge to it. Um, Most of the songs I write, I would say, are probably 80 to 90% dead on. This is my life. I have lived this. There's one particular song that I have that the concept is a part of my life, but it's a little bit more fantasy and more of just kind of an outlaw song. Then there's another song that I wrote that's going to be coming out here pretty soon called Dust Bowl Blues. I didn't get to play that at the round that you were at, but I played it at a couple other ones in Nashville. And it's about my family who grew up in West Texas in the Dust Bowl. But the idea was that I was mad one day, about how hard it was, and I was struggling to make ends meet. And I would just look around me, and everybody else is doing the same thing. And I had this thought of, your ancestors made it through the Dust Bowl, and you're still here, so suck it up. And like, if they can make it through, you're gonna be fine. So then I try to put myself in like their mindset of, how did that feel? Like, what were they going through in that time? And so even though that's not technically my story, it's a part of the history of my family. And so I typically like to write from true experience. And I think I've lived enough lives in my life to have enough to pull from. And so I think that connects best, when you tell a true story. I think it connects really well to other people, because more than likely, someone else has had an adjacent story. Someone else has had something that's like, oh yeah, I've lived that before. And so I try to keep it just ambiguous enough, like with Already Gone, that it could 100% be anybody in that room. But I sing it with soul and passion because it literally was me. So
I always feel like it would be hard to not be too personal.
yeah. Yeah, there's sometimes I have to pull it back, because if I make it all about me, then it's not going to connect with someone else. And those are usually the songs that I write that are just for me, that I don't really share to anybody else. That I've got to get this one out. I wrote a song around Christmas called "Daddy's Gone," and I was just thinking about my kids. I get to see them, but not as often as I want to, and like thinking about how young they are and how they process this. And so I wrote it from their perspective of like, okay, how are they feeling now? How are they going to feel when they're adults and they know the whole story and they know everything? And I tried it out at a round, and I think it was too sad. And it was too sad. It was too much just for me. And it was a good story, but I don't know that everybody's connecting with that. And so that's probably one that, if we were still doing, vinyls, it would be on the B side. So
I think I remember you saying something, and you have a few kids, don't you?
I got more than a few. Yeah. I've got 8. I've got 8 total. So, yeah, 3 with my first wife, then 3 stepchildren. Then we have 1 that's on the way. And I also had a son when I was 17 in high school, who we had to put up for adoption, but we have a relationship now. It's an open adoption. And so he's 21. So I basically have 21 to 4 months in the womb, in the whole span. So yeah, I got a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a
Sounds
little
like you
bit.
got a lot of material you can write with, though. Yeah.
That's the truth. That's what I was saying. I think I've lived enough lives to be able to pull a lot of different songs out of it.
So Texas, and then to Pennsylvania, and now to Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I mean, you want to make Kansas your home forever?
No, not at all. Nothing against Kansas. I love the people in Kansas. They're all nice. They're wonderful, but it's not Texas. And I am the quintessential Texan of Texas pride, and that is just me. So currently we just live here for the next 4 years or so. And then we'll be moving back to Texas. And I'll be back in my home. So basically, every time I've moved, it's been for a job. I originally moved to Pennsylvania to work on the pipeline, which gave me some material as well to be able to write off of. And then when I got remarried, my wife lived in Kansas, and so moved here, and we're here for the next couple of years, and then hopefully we'll be back to Texas, unless something opens up, in Nashville for some reason. I wouldn't ever move there unless I already had, a record deal or a management company that was there, and I was touring quite a bit, and I needed to be there often. But yeah, the goal is back to Texas always.
Have you tried to book a show in Texas?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've actually had a couple of shows in the Fort Worth, Dallas area. I've got a few coming up pretty soon. I've got two in the Memorial Day weekend. I'll play at Rhinestone Saloon down in the Stockyards, and then, I'll be back in Rhinestone Saloon with my full band in October. But yeah, I've played a couple of shows down there. One of the first shows I played when I got off of The Voice was actually in Fort Worth, which is really cool because it was the night after like one of my episodes had aired, and I was able to be in my hometown. I'm in a bar where people had just seen me the night before on TV. I had some friends that I knew from high school that showed up, and that was really cool. So yeah, I've had the opportunity to play in Dallas and in Fort Worth quite a bit still.
How intimidating was that show? Like going up and being on that?
Yeah. So I have never been nervous to sing in my life. I've never been nervous to play music. Never. But when they called us out there, they call your name, you go out there for the audition. Internally, I was trembling, like, because at this point, like I said, I'd lost everything, and I had got a new job and then lost the job because I went on the show. And I didn't know that when I went into it because they had told me I was going to get to keep it, but then they rescinded that. So it is what it is. So I went out there kind of like, this is it. If I don't make it to the next round, if I don't get a chair turn, then I just wasted 2 months here. I lost even more than I've already lost. And, in my mind, I was thinking it's just going to be like a kind of a laughing stock thing. Like, why would you even do that? I had people already that were like, why would you go out there? Like, your life just fell apart. Why would you go out to LA and do this show? And so there was a lot of pressure for me. And I think that internal pressure plus the pressure of just being in front of, Reba and Snoop and Gwen and Michael Bublé, like seeing the backs of their chairs. It was all so surreal that you're like, okay, what are the words of the song again? What's the note I got to hit? What's the timing? What happens if they don't turn around? What happens if they do turn around? What am I going to do? And what it made it even more nerve-wracking was that I was the very first person in all of voice history to have what's called a coach's replay. And so technically no chairs turned. And so I'm at the end of my song, and I'm like, well, crap, that's it. And, for anybody listening, you can go back and watch it on YouTube. But the emotion is real because I even asked Reba, she's like, I just don't know why I didn't turn. And I said, yeah, you should have. And then I said, like, they didn't air this part, but I said, can I have a second chance? And they just laughed it off. I was like, hey, I'm off the show. I'm going to say whatever I want to, within reason. Right. And so they get through all their coach's spiel. They're talking about it. And even Snoop was like, yeah, the only reason I didn't turn is because I thought for sure Reba was going to turn based off the song you were singing. So I was like, I'm just going to let her have him. And then after they got through, she said, hey, we've got this new thing that's called the coach's replay. And I'm going to go ahead and play it right now. And all the emotion just floods me. And I end up crying and just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. And now I'm on Reba's team. And, this is unbelievable. Like all the things that I worked for up to this point right now are paying off in this moment, at least. And so that was incredibly nerve-wracking. So then coming back for the battle round, I wasn't nervous at all because it was like, well, I just went through the ringer emotionally for the first episode. So this second episode is kind of like, this is icing on the cake. And I'm confident in what I'm doing. I'm here on the show. I'm here on a team. I'm going to do fine. And so, yeah, each episode after that first one was just kind of like, okay, I'm here to do what I do. And if they don't like it or the producers don't want me on the show anymore, then I can't control that. But what I can control is how well I sing, and I'm going to focus on that, so.
Was once you were off the show, like you rode that high, but it's like, did you think, what am I going to do with this and make it into something?
Yeah, for sure. And I had people reach out, and other friends that I had known that had been on the show before, people, even producers or whatever, that would talk to you and be like, "Hey, it doesn't matter what happens on the show; it matters what you do afterwards." Because you could even be second place, you could win the show and not do anything with it. If you don't actually put your mind to this and push and see what happens. And so after that, it was more of that, like, okay, I've got to pound the pavement. I've got to push as hard as I can. I've got to contact venues. I've got to use this leverage of, hey, I was on season 26 of The Voice with Team Reba, and I was a top 30 contestant, and use that to my ability to like break through the noise. Because even now, trying to book shows that are just outside of like my 30-mile, 50-mile radius, like, they're getting emails all the time, venue owners, whatever, talent buyers, they're getting emails all the time of people who don't have a lot of music out, because I only have a couple songs, don't have a lot of music out, don't have a massive following yet on Spotify. And so they're trying to sift through, okay, does this person suck or are they actually good? And so, like, I have to use that. I get to use that of like, hey, here's this YouTube video that has, millions of views on it. And here's this TikTok that has 18 point something million views on it of me singing. So from a nationally televised show. So no, I'm not terrible. Yes, I can bring, a good show to you. Yes, I can sing. And so I typically, I have to use that. Now it's been 2 years. So that kind of like, it loses a little bit of luster sometimes because it's not as fresh. They can't just go back and watch me. They got to search it or something like that, or got to link it. But it definitely does help. And I try to use as much as I can, leverage from that as much as possible. So.
So you say you have a new song coming out soon?
Yeah, so it'll be out mid-April, and it's called Dust Bowl Blues. I have one that's on Spotify right now called Prodigal, that I wrote, based on the prodigal son from the Bible, also based on my life. I've kind of lived that life. And so that's out on Spotify right now. And then the next one that's coming out will be Dust Bowl Blues. That's the one about my family, and it's I played it on a Wednesday night show in Nashville, and someone came up to me. It was a smaller round, and they were like, "That sounds like it needs to be on a Taylor Sheridan show." I was like, "Hey, if you know him, give him a call, let him know."
Yeah.
Like, I agree with you. Let's put it on. So yeah, that'll be out in mid-April, and it's recorded. I'm just waiting for everything to be mastered and all, and then the next song that's on the calendar will be that divorce song, Already Gone. And so that one's going to be released in the fall, and I'm excited for those. So
Yeah, I remember you playing that one at the round I was at, and yeah, I liked it. It was real good.
yeah, I appreciate it. It's always, those are the kind of songs, like I say, that I'll just play and see, okay, how does this hit? And the first time I ever played it was in a little bar that we play once every couple of months. It's kind of like our home base. It's always a place we can go and play. People are always going to show up and pack out the place because they know us. And we played that show, or we played that song as a full band. I came back to that venue a couple weeks later just as an acoustic act, just to fill out some dates. And these people that were at the previous show had come up after I had torn down. I was done. And they were like, "Oh, did we miss it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just finished. It's a little shorter show because I'm by myself." And they're like, "Oh, man, I wanted to hear that one, that divorce song that you played." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. I've already played it, whatever." And they were like, "Well, what if we tip you and give you like enough money to come and just play it at our table?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're gonna, sure, fine, I guess." So I was like, they're like, "How much?" And I was just throwing a number out there. I was like, $50. I'll come do it, private at your table, $50. And they ended up giving me $150 to just do that one song at their table after my show. And like, that made me solidify, okay, this is a song that connected. This one actually hit somebody. And at that point, I had wanted to record it immediately after that happened. I'd already recorded Dust Bowl Blues, though. So like, I have a little, I had to wait a couple of months to record this one. But yeah, like, that's what made me know, okay, this song's good. And so when I go play it at rounds, or I go play it by myself or something, one of the coolest things that can happen is if the room gets quieter, like not dead silent, but if it gets quieter, it's like, okay, I got somebody. I captured attention. Because I mean, you were at the round, like every round's like this. It's in a open bar, so people are just talking, and not everybody's there to listen to songwriters. They're just kind of hanging out and having a good time, and so there's a lot of chatter going on even while someone's playing a song. And so if you can like stop that at least a little bit, then that means you caught something.
Awesome. Well, Kendall, man, I really appreciate you coming on here and talking with me.
Yeah, Dana, I appreciate you having me, man. It's been a good conversation.
Yeah, appreciate it. And yeah, good luck on all your future endeavors and stuff. And hopefully, I can catch you in Nashville again and hear some
Yeah.
more songs from you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. I plan to be out there next in the fall. So I'm having the next child in the summer. So
Oh
I don't want
yeah,
to do too
you'll be a
much
little
there, and
busy.
I'm pretty booked up as well. And so yeah, I'm hoping to make it back out in the fall, and we'll see what happens.
All right, man. Well, you have a great day, dude, and
I appreciate
talk
it,
to you
Dane. You
later.
too.
Yep.
Yep. We'll see you,
Bye.
man. Thanks.